Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into some really powerful ideas, all coming from Richard Aris's book, The Art of Risk.
hmm We're looking at risk-taking, resilience,
Mm.
how we bounce back, courage, failure, and interestingly, community.
Exactly. And we're seeing it all through the eyes of Shubham. He's kind of an everyman figure searching for something more.
Right, and this book, The Art of Risk, it lands in his lap and really starts to shift his perspective, how he approaches things.
Yeah. So our mission here, for you listening, is to pull out those key actionable insights from Shubham's experience and Harris's writing. Sort of a shortcut to these big ideas about growth and handling challenges.
Okay, so let's dive in. That first chapter that really grabbed Shubham was about embracing carefully managed risk.
And his first thought, no way, risk is danger. He remembers thinking back to like deciding not to go bungee jumping. Avoidance.
But see, Harris makes this crucial point. The real risk takers, they aren't just winging it. They're actually quite analytical. They look at the worst case scenarios. They plan.
It's not about being fearless. It's about being prepared.
Exactly. And this light bulb goes off for Shubham when he thinks about his friend Arjun, the one who did the bungee jump.
Right. Shubham always saw that as pure recklessness. But now, looking through Harris's lens, he realizes, wait a second.
There were safety checks, right?
Mhm.
Procedures. Arjun had actually, maybe subconsciously, assessed the situation. It wasn't just a whim.
It was a calculated risk, even if Arjun didn't call it that.
And this forces Shubham to ask himself, and it's a question for all of us, really, how often does just a vague feeling of, discomfort hold us back?
Keep us in that comfort zone. Harris's words really push him to question what he might be missing.
So he does something quite proactive. He actually sits down and identifies his biggest fear, which is what, for many people,
Failure. Big one.
right.
Yeah.
And he starts to really break down, okay, what is the absolute worst that could happen here?
And this leads him to take that first small, manageable risk, pursuing freelance photography, something he loved but always, put on the back burner.
Perfect example of managed risk.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just quit his job. No. He lists out the fears.
Like, what if I don't get clients? What if I struggle with money? What if people laugh at my photos?
Yeah, all those anxieties. But then, and this is key, he comes up with ways to mitigate each one.
Okay, so no clients. I'll do some free shoots first, build up a portfolio.
Money worries. Maybe keep a part-time job for a safety net.
People mocking him. He decides, okay, I'll try to see criticism as feedback, as a chance to learn, not as like a personal attack.
It's about building those safety nets, having a plan B.
And then bam, his first real test. A friend's wedding, needs a photographer last minute, big step up.
But because he's done this mental prep work, he feels, well, maybe not totally calm, but ready to try. His mindset is shifted.
He sees it as a learning opportunity, whatever happens.
And how did it go?
Huge success. The friend loved the photos. And for Shubham, it's this powerful firsthand proof.
Proof that taking a risk, but doing it thoughtfully, facing those fears with some planning, it can actually work out really well.
So the takeaway there is, don't just run from risk. Analyze it. Plan for the downsides. That's managed risk.
Okay, then the book shifts gears a bit. Resilience.
Yeah. And initially, Shubham's like, resilience, that's for people overcoming, huge tragedies. What's that got to do with me?
But Harris argues, no, resilience is crucial in just everyday life. For those small failures, those inevitable setbacks, it's all about the response.
Do you stay down or do you get back up and maybe learn something?
Exactly. And this triggers a memory for Shubham. College debate competition. He completely froze.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And ever since then, terrified of public speaking, just avoided it completely.
But the book offers this different angle, right? Don't run from failures, learn from them.
He uses this analogy like resilience is a muscle.
Mhm.
You have to stress it a bit, let it recover, and it gets stronger. Each setback you navigate builds it up.
That makes sense. So Shubham decides, okay, I need to tackle this public speaking fear directly.
He starts small,
Mhm.
just making himself contribute more in office meetings,
Yeah.
something he'd actively avoided before. Surprisingly positive outcome. His boss actually compliments him on being clear. A small win, but significant.
It builds that confidence, doesn't it, for bigger things?
Totally. And he experiences this very physically later on a trek with Arjun. Fear of heights kicks in big time on a tricky path.
Oh, I can relate to that.
But Arjun gives him this advice. Just focus on the very next step.
Yeah.
Don't look down. Don't think about the whole mountain. Just one step.
And it worked.
It worked. He managed his anxiety. And it changed how he saw that challenge.
Yeah, breaking it down. Suddenly obstacles seem less like, terrifying walls and more like Opportunities?
Opportunities to learn, to get stronger. We see this play out with his photography, too. He enters a contest, doesn't win.
Old Shubham might have just given up.
Right. But new Shubham, he actively asks for feedback, wants to know how to improve, uses it.
So resilience isn't just about the big dramatic bounce backs. It's the everyday stuff, too. Learning, adapting.
Precisely. It's ongoing.
Okay, next up is a tricky one. The line between recklessness and real courage.
Yeah, the book really digs into this. What's just thoughtless action versus something that might look risky, but is actually driven by, well, courage, even in the face of fear.
And Shubham starts thinking about his friend Arjun again. All those adventures he used to label as just reckless.
Now he's wondering, maybe there's more to it. Was Arjun actually being courageous, pushing his limits in a calculated way?
So Shubham does another self-reflection exercise. Makes 2 lists.
What were they?
Things he avoids purely out of fear, and things he does kind of impulsively without much thought.
Ah, interesting. And what did that show him?
A big imbalance. He was operating at the extremes. Fear-driven avoidance or thoughtless action. Not much in that middle ground.
The space for thoughtful, courageous action.
Exactly. The book uses this great example of a stunt pilot. Looks
Yeah.
incredibly reckless, right?
Totally death-defying.
But behind the scenes, meticulous planning, deep understanding of the risks, the equipment, their own skills, it's anything but thoughtless.
That really highlights the difference. True courage often involves intense prep, not just a lack of fear.
So this all comes together for Shubham when a challenging, kind of risky project comes up at work. His first instinct is hesitation.
But he sees it now as a chance to practice this calculated risk thing.
Right. He steps up, works closely with the team. They map out the plan, identify potential problems.
Risk assessment.
Yeah. And the project. It succeeds, and it teaches him a huge lesson.
That courage isn't about not being scared. It's about acting deliberately despite the fear.
It's about knowing the risks, knowing your strengths, and making a conscious decision.
Exactly. It's informed action.
Which leads us to the ultimate test for Shubham. Arjun invites him skydiving.
Oh boy. Given the fear of heights.
Right. His immediate reaction is probably, absolutely not. But this time, something's different in how he approaches it.
He doesn't just shut it down.
No. He actually talks to Arjun about it. Asks him, aren't you terrified? How do you do that?
And Arjun's answer is key, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Arjun admits, yeah, he gets scared. But he talks about the training, the double checks, the safety protocols, how he manages the fear through preparation and trust in the process.
So it reinforces that idea again. Managing fear with knowledge and planning.
So Shubham does his homework, researches the skydiving company, their safety record. He needs to feel confident it's a calculated risk, not just a leap into the void.
And he decides to do it.
He does. And he says the experience, well, it was transformative. That moment of jumping, the intense fear,
Yeah.
it just gave way to this incredible feeling of accomplishment. It really hammered home the lesson.
The difference isn't the activity itself. It's the mindset, the planning. That's what separates courage from recklessness.
Understanding fear, knowing your capabilities, making that effective decision.
Okay, lesson 4, learning from failure. The book flips the script here.
Right. Failure isn't the end. It's potentially a stepping stone, a teacher.
And the book argues that the fear of failing can actually hold you back more than failure itself.
This makes Shubham look back again. That debate club disaster versus the photography contest feedback. 2 very different responses to not succeeding.
He starts to really internalize this idea of, okay, what can I learn when things don't go to plan?
A really concrete example happens at work. Big presentation, projector fails, total disaster in the moment.
Ugh, nightmare scenario.
But afterwards, instead of just feeling embarrassed, he analyzes it. What went wrong? What could I have done?
And the lesson.
Always have a backup plan. Test the tech beforehand. Seems obvious, maybe, but he learned it through failing.
The book reinforces this with another story, a mountaineer who failed several times trying to summit a peak. Not because they weren't skilled, but maybe planning wasn't quite right.
But they didn't give up. They adjusted their strategy, learned from the failed attempts, and eventually
Made it to the top. The core message being, failure doesn't define you. Your response to it does.
this really changes Shubham's approach, especially with his photography. He starts actively seeking out critique at exhibitions, even the tough stuff.
He wants to learn. He also pushes himself, physically enters a cycling marathon. Doesn't finish it,
Right.
but he learns about his endurance limits, where he needs to train harder. It's data, not defeat.
There's a quote from the book that really sticks with him, something like,
The most successful people aren't afraid to fail. They are afraid of not trying at all.
That's the one. Powerful. It becomes kind of a mantra for him.
And eventually, he enters another photography competition, and this time,
He wins, and he directly connects that success back to all the things he learned from the times he didn't win, the feedback he got, the failures he analyzed.
failure went from being this big, scary monster to, well, almost a mentor.
Yeah, a tough one sometimes, but a mentor. Okay, final lesson we're covering today, the value of community.
And the chapter opens strong. No one succeeds alone.
Simple, but it makes Shubham stop and think, do I have that kind of supportive community? Am I using it?
Harris includes stories, like rock climbers who learn crucial techniques from partners with different strengths, people who help each other manage risks.
And Shubham realizes, yeah, he's often been trying to figure things out all by himself, facing challenges solo.
So this prompts another change. He starts actively engaging with his photography group, not just showing up, but participating.
And he finds huge value there, right?
Yeah.
Getting different perspectives on composition, technique.
Absolutely. He even gets this great piece of advice from a senior photographer about not chasing perfection, about embracing the imperfections sometimes.
So the book puts it nicely. A community is not just a safety net. It is a source of inspiration and growth.
It really is. And Shubham starts extending this beyond just hobbies. He opens up more with friends, actually talking about his fears and failures with Arjun.
And Arjun shares back that shared vulnerability. It makes the setbacks feel less heavy somehow, less isolating.
Definitely. He sees it at work too. A collaborative project comes up. Instead of just focusing on his part, he gets involved in making the team work better.
And the outcome is way better than if everyone had just stayed in their silos.
Right.
His boss even notices his role in, like, team cohesion.
Because shared experiences build strong bonds. That's another point Harris makes.
Which Shubham then actively cultivates. He starts organizing weekend treks with his friends, shared adventures.
And on those treks, problems come up, right? Someone twists an ankle, they get a bit lost.
They figure it out together. It strengthens the friendships, the trust.
And the overall impact on Shubham.
He feels a real shift. More confident, more open, definitely more connected. Even his photography group notices a change.
How so?
They mention this new depth in his work.
Huh.
And he knows it's because he's not just learning technical skills. He's learning and growing with other people.
He sees the community as this mirror, reflecting back his potential, offering that vital encouragement.
Yeah. It's clear that for Shubham, applying these lessons from the art of risk isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing journey. And community has become this incredibly important part of it.
A vital source of strength and learning, absolutely.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've journeyed through managed risk, building resilience, finding courage over recklessness, learning from failure, and the incredible power of community. All through Shubham's experiences with the art of risk.
Hopefully, seeing how these ideas played out for him gives you some valuable takeaways for your own challenges and growth.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. Think about one area in your own life. Where might you be avoiding a risk that could actually be managed? Or maybe underestimating your own resilience, your ability to bounce back?
Or perhaps are you confusing recklessness with courage? Or are you overlooking the lessons hidden in past setbacks, or the support your own community could offer?
Inspired by Shubham's story today, what's one small manageable step you could take, maybe even today, to explore a new possibility, or just strengthen how you approach the challenges already in front of you?